The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Pollard streaks in. Touchdown. Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Nick Harris, John Machota, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's a Tuesday edition of Talking Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company as we are live from Black Rifle Coffee in North Frisco, Talking Cowboys on the road today as we break down, of course, what happened on Sunday with the Dallas Cowboys and what's coming up in Week 10. Alongside John Machota, we've got Isaiah Stanback, Nick Harris, Chris Beam in the back, and Kyle Yeomans. Everybody is here. We are on site. It's a little bit different this time around, John, but you've got the fireplace behind you. You got the smell of medium roast in the air. It's the perfect way to start the morning, right?
Not a coffee drinker. I'm probably.
Oh,
that's all right, John. We're gonna do it for you.
Do you want me to lie?
Yeah, I want you to lie.
No, good to be here.
Good to be here, Isaiah. What's going on?
I'm happy to be here. You know, I've been shooting out Black Rifle Coffee Company for a minute now. So you got all the RTDs in person. We got the brew right there. We got the brew crew. We got a big fella back there, you know, making it happen. So I'm happy. Now I am a little confused as to why John and I are sitting next to each other with the nice little fire behind us. I asked Beamer about that one, but I'll pass it to Nick.
No, it's good to be here. This is a quicker drive for me this morning, so I got like 10 extra minutes, and it was great.
A little bit closer than what the Star brings for you.
Yeah.
And a little extra fuel to go with it as well. I've got my coffee on the way. Really excited about that. We've got the drip. Do you even know what the drip coffee is? Because you're not a coffee drinker. Okay, you know of it. So that's good. You've got the America's Team blend in front of us, which is available. I know they're on the shelves right over there too. But they're flying off.
I'm walking out with a T-shirt.
You're walking out with a T-shirt? They got merchandise here, too.
Yeah, but I'm walking out with a T-shirt today. I'm a rep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Rep some Black Rifle Coffee. They do a great job in the community. Plus, they've got their Frisco grand opening. This is the soft opening of the North Frisco store, but they have a grand opening on Saturday. Doors open at 5 a.m. It's a coffee shop, so starts early.
Gotta get here early,
right? Got to get here early. The first 50 in-store customers receive a free 20-ounce Yeti tumbler.
Ooh.
I feel like we should count as the first 50. I mean, we're here right now.
I feel like it, but I don't mind getting here early. I'll do 5 a.m.
Yeah. If you didn't want just the tumbler, you get a free batch brew coffee for an entire year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. For a whole year.
You're going to be camping out at like 3 a.m., though. You know it's going to be popping.
See, no, what happens is it's all about smoking distractions. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be like, oh, look at that. And somebody turns around and you just slide right in the spot. They can't move me. I'm too big.
Right.
You're right. You don't know who's going to be showing up here.
It is called Black Rifle, so I might not want to mess with you.
Yeah, I was about to say, you might not want to mess around with it.
Box out.
But the address, 16599 Farm to Market Road, FM 423 here in Frisco, Texas. 5 a.m. doors open. Charlotte Jones will be here on Saturday. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders will be here. Rowdy will be here. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. But, John, we've got to get your thoughts. First time you're on the show since you arrived back in Dallas from Philadelphia. 28-23 final score of the Eagles over the Cowboys. What are your thoughts from Sunday night?
So for me, going into the game, I thought that there was a chance that they could lose by multiple touchdowns. And the way the game started, I thought it could have been headed in that direction. So I was impressed on how when they came out and went 3 and out, Philly scores, but then to answer the way that they did, I was genuinely impressed with that, and kind of it set the tone like, hey, this isn't going to be some type of a San Francisco Part 2. But then the third quarter happens, and you're just like, yeah, this could get out of control. I didn't think the defense played well enough. I mean, that's, how many times have we talked about them being the strength of the team? The defense had to play great, needed the defense to show up, and they didn't in that third quarter. But then they do in the fourth. I mean, just the ups and downs of that game were wild. And then to even get the chance to steal it in the end, it was stunning. And I will say this, going in the locker room, I didn't really know what to expect, but it certainly was a more positive locker room than I can remember after any loss. I literally, there isn't even like a comparison. I can't even think of a rival to it in my time covering this team. And so maybe that's a good sign. Maybe that they feel like that this is a building block and they can take this in a positive direction. The issue is that now you're 2.5 games back of the Eagles, and this is a team that really needs to win the division. With how they've played at home, you don't want to be going into this as a wild card and having to play on the road all the time. And so they got some catching up to do now. I mean, I certainly think when they rematch against the Eagles, that's a must-win. They have to have that game. But there were a lot of good things to take out of this game, obviously, with number one being Dak Prescott.
I'm going to sound like a therapist, and it's not just because of the coffee and the fire behind me, and we're leaning back in these nice leather chairs.
John, we're here for you.
But I'm going to ask Isaiah, how does that make you feel from a player, former player standpoint, whenever following a loss, there is some positivity around it? I know we talked about it yesterday. There are positives you can take from it and build from in that game, but we've talked about moral victories. We've talked about the some of those things you can rest your laurels on. Does that make you feel confident in the way this team is moving in the right direction, or is that something that could maybe come up in the future?
I think that is realistic. You know, everybody, I mean, there's no moral victories, but there is facts. And the facts are, earlier in the season when you got your butt kicked by San Francisco, the gap between you and the teams that are on that level of competition was vast. It was a freaking, it was an ocean, right? In between, in between you and them. And now all of a sudden you play the Eagles, and now you recognize that it's not that large of a gap anymore. And you hear people say, well, I could play with these guys. That's not what you want to say. You know that you could play with these guys, but you didn't recognize that, hey, we're just that close to winning the game. And now you know. And now you know exactly what issues they present to you. Now you know, instead of just going off of, the analytics, instead of just going off of, the rosters, now you know for sure where your problem spots are, and you can address those via film. And now that you can address those via film, you go out there, you can correct these issues over the next few weeks, right? And you have some tough opponents following that, and then you get to face the Eagles again. And then guess what? You get a chance for redemption. So I think it is awesome. And from that regard, like I said, like we said yesterday, the only thing that sucks is you're 2.5 games back. So now you got to try to play catch up. And you're kind of hoping that they stumble along the way in the middle of their season.
One other takeaway I wanted to share. I know that this has been a pretty notable NFL story, so I'm not breaking any news here, but it was wild being there and seeing how their head coach and quarterback are handling his knee injury. Like, just how secretive they're being about it. It is so strange. He clearly was injured at the end of the first half. And just like, you didn't expect questions about this? I mean, there was some – Marcus Mariota was warming up on the sideline. And the way that they're just keeping that under wraps, it just makes me wonder, like, how significant is this? But then the other part of it is like, he's not on the injury report.
Yeah.
That whole thing is kind of wild to me, the way that's going down. Who knows how significant it is? Obviously, he played well, so he's able to play through it. But is that something that they have their toughest part of their schedule coming up? How is he going to make his way through that? Obviously, they can sit there and say publicly what they want, but I don't understand how if you're playing the Eagles, how you're not trying to put big time shots on Jalen Hurts right now, because it does look like just the wrong tackle type thing like that. I mean, I didn't even think the way Micah tackled him that it was any type of, thing that would lead to an injury or anything.
It was D-Law.
Like that.
It was D-Law fell on his knee.
That first half.
Yeah, there was one when Micah honestly, I thought he went and set him down nicely, and then just the way that he just didn't seem like 100% right. So just something to monitor going forward. But again, just because how secretive they're being about it, it's weird.
Two piggybacks off that one. You could see on the TV copy right after that tackle late in the first half. It's like his left leg is shaking as he's getting up. And I told Patrick Walker next to me, I was like, oh, he's done. And then he comes right back out for the next drive. I'm like, all right. So
well, they did a great job too, building up the hype after halftime.
Yes, they did.
When they came out, he was one of the last people to come out of the locker room, and Mariota had his helmet on and was throwing. So, I mean, you're sitting there like, are they really about to – is he not – and then all of a sudden he comes out, grabs his helmet at the last minute, goes back on. So it's almost like they're playing up to it a little bit too. It's something interesting to watch.
Well, and we were talking about it on the TV copy as well. He goes in early at halftime, and, of course, if you're just watching the game casually, you're like, oh my gosh, he's hurt, he's going into the locker room. He's going into halftime. They weren't going back out on offense, and he's getting treatment to begin the second half and try and get an early start on treatment. But you need the treatment for an injury normally. And we were even doing our prep for postgame, and I write the postgame highlight reel, and I put together plays as the game goes along, and there are some that I put in there and I take out. One of the plays I put in there was the D-Law sack right at the end of the second quarter. And the way he got up and the way he kind of hobbled to the sideline, he continued through the second quarter. And then once, of course, they had to punt, went into the locker room, I was like, okay, I'm going to put this in the highlight reel because if he comes out and he doesn't look good or if he doesn't play, then it's a significant storyline. Coming into the third quarter, he comes out and they drive right down the field. And I texted our producer. I said, "Yeah, he's fine." I was like, "I'm going to take that one out, that play out of it." But that's kind of speaking to what you're talking about, how played up it was to the point where now it's a complete non-factor. It is kind of an interesting deal. And I mean, if you withhold injuries off of an injury report, that would be possible draft picks, fine.
I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to mention off of it too is, and maybe just watching more of that game than a lot of the other ones, but the key to the brotherly shove is Kelsey.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
that was
Jalen
Boy, and
Hurts
the
is
guards
banged
as
up.
well.
As soon as they snap the ball, it's like he's already leaning in. And you look at like when the Cowboys tried to run it, one of those times, Dak is beyond the oddish.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like when you watch the Eagles run it, there is always a push up front. There is always like immediately. So my whole thing is I would like to see how it looks if Kelsey wasn't out there. I bet you it doesn't have the success it does without him.
What do you think, Isaiah, whenever you look at something like that?
I think it's as successful with or without Kelsey. I think the guards are the main guys that really kind of spearhead it, literally spearhead it, because they're in a 4-point stance. Kelsey has to be in a 3-point because you just, being able to snap the ball. But those guys are in a 4-point stance, and as soon as the ball is snapped, they literally just shoot. They shoot right down and pretty much clear out the way for Kelsey. And so that between the three of those guys, there's no way to stop that thing. I mean, if somebody stopped it, once this year, I think, but the chances are slim to none.
Well, it was Washington who stopped it, and then the very next time they turned around and ran it, they flipped it out, and there was a fake brotherly shove, and then they ran it into the end zone with DeAndre Swift. So plenty to talk about from this Eagles game. I want to get into the defense in the next segment. Before we do that, Nick, do we have any news and notes to hit from yesterday, hearing from coordinators, Mike McCarthy, et cetera?
Yeah, we'll start with something we didn't really get to touch on a whole lot yesterday with Martavis Bryant coming in today, this morning for the workout. Should be happening right as we speak right now. Stephen Jones talked about it yesterday. Mike McCarthy spoke a little bit about it, but it looked like it was an evaluation from Will McClay and his staff based on what he did in the XFL with the Vegas Vipers. Not a lot of production. I believe it was 18 receptions for 154 yards this past spring season in 8 games with the Vipers. So bringing him in today for a workout, he's at 32 years old, hasn't played in the league in 5 years, so not sure what the level of expectation should be, but it's something that's happening, and there's an open practice spot available for him. If he does end up wanting to be signed by the staff, if he doesn't, then he'll head to Tennessee and work out for the Titans.
We talked a little bit yesterday about Michael Gallup along with Brandon Cooks and kind of the inability to get those weapons involved. It's mostly for a practice squad spot that they're trying Bryant out for. So it's in terms of the grand scheme of this offense, it doesn't shake things up significantly. But does that tell you anything about what they're trying to do from an offensive standpoint, trying to find some weapons and work guys out?
I mean, listening to Jerry this morning, I thought it was interesting that he mentioned 2 different times that they have this receiver coming in that they're going to work out. They have workouts all the time.
Yeah.
He never talks about that. For him to mention it multiple times, I did think that was interesting. So it made me think that, there must be some genuine interest in potentially adding him to the mix. I guess it could help, but I don't know how he's going to bring anything more to the table than what they already have. Like, how is he going to bring more than what they have in Tolbert? You have Brandon Cooks, who's coming off of getting targeted only twice. I don't know how all of a sudden a guy that was playing for the Vegas Vipers, which I just learned that team name right now,
Me too.
is going to come in here mid-season and then be like a major factor for this team. Just because another factor in that for me is just I kind of thought the way that T.Y. Hilton started when they first added him, that it was going to be a bigger factor as the season went on. He had that big catch against the Eagles, and that kind of faded out, And I would be very surprised if they add anybody at this point that is going to make this notable addition to the offense. I think that they're pretty much, when they didn't make a move at the trade deadline, their hand was shown. It was going to be what they have right now.
You took a page right out of the next question. It was, are they trying to find T.Y. Hilton? Is that what they're trying to find? Just somebody to make an impact like that, maybe from a veteran standpoint, maybe from a locker room standpoint. Because, Isaiah, I know you liked what he brought to the table last year, not necessarily from a production standpoint, but what he did outside of the field.
You talking about T.Y.?
T.Y.
Oh, yeah, T.Y. was a dude. I mean, obviously he had to play against Philly, but he was open. He was open a lot. He just didn't get the ball. So it's kind of like Brandon Cooks this year. Brandon Cooks is open a lot. He's just not getting the ball. So you're going to control what you can control from that position. But to you guys' point, I don't see them. If they do sign Brian, I don't think that he comes in and has a major impact. If he didn't have a major impact in the XFL, I can't see him doing it in the NFL.
Yeah, he was drafted by Pittsburgh, spent 3 seasons there, traded to Oakland, spent a season there before getting suspended for a year. Ended up getting suspended for an indefinite amount of time that eventually ended this past Saturday. He spent time in the CFL and then obviously the XFL. He never played in the CFL because he kept getting suspended in the CFL too. And then now he's in the XFL. But I'm not sure. We'll see what comes out of this. I think if he signed today, then there's probably a lot more questions that come on the backside of it of, what has he done in the last couple of years to tell you that he's not going to be suspended again. So
I'm trying to think like who they've added like a mid-season type thing like that that's had like the biggest impact in the last like 10 plus years.
Was Greg Hardy a mid-season?
No.
He wasn't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
And even that, I think maybe that was more of a negative impact.
Yeah.
Positive one.
Yeah, if anything.
Yeah, I maintain that's the worst Cowboys move of the last decade plus. I mean, obviously they trade for Hankins last year. He's helped in the run defense. But I just think of like Michael Bennett and some of these other moves that they've made. Like, I don't know, there's just something about mid-season like that. There's hope that that this can be something, but you're probably going to roll with the guys that you've had going all the way back to OTAs and minicamp.
Yeah. I thought you were talking more like mid-season character guys, where it was do we really want to throw him in the locker room in the middle of the season?
That is a good point.
Was Greg Hardy mid-season?
No,
I was not speaking to him on like a positive impact.
I got you. I thought I meant like just in general, like making a move that like, hey, this could.
Well, if you're talking trade, Amari Cooper, I mean, if you're talking trade-wise, there was an impact there. But in terms of a signing off of the street, I don't see any impact.
So if you give up a first-round pick, then you can get mid-season improvement. Right?
Hey, there was mid-season improvement there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But then you didn't have your first-round pick.
Yeah, and then you didn't have that. So,
what do you feel like Major Payne would say about adding a guy like Bryant, Isaiah? What do you feel like he would say?
I think Major Payne is probably the only person that can get him right.
Yeah.
So, we'll leave it at that.
Anything else?
There was one. There was a tweet that I had put out yesterday, and I honestly didn't expect it to get as much traction as it did. It was more so just kind of highlighting the inconsistencies on the offensive line this season. John probably knows what I'm talking about already. I just kind of highlighted the total pressures that have been allowed by Dallas Cowboys offensive linemen this season. And I put all 5 starters and then Chuma Edoga just because he's gotten so much time as well. So we'll run through the list here. Tyler Smith, 4. Only 4 pressures allowed all season. He's on an all-pro pace. I think we could all agree to that. Tyron Smith, 5. Whenever he's been healthy, he's been super awesome. Zach Martin, 13. Tyler Biadasz, 14. Chuma Edoga, 11. And Terrence Steele, 28, including 12 versus Philadelphia. He had 12 versus Philadelphia and 9 versus the Niners. Those combined are more than any other guy on this list for the season. So, got a lot of traction. A lot of people kind of highlighting Steele in that moment, which, I would have. It's very just. And there was a question asked yesterday to Mike McCarthy. Is Steele still the same post-injury as he was pre-injury? He's like, he's still going to have to like ramp up and get used to being back on the field in a full capacity. So I get that's the first time I've kind of heard concern post-injury from Terrence Steele from anybody. Where's y'all's confidence level in Terrence Steele, and especially given that they just paid him this offseason too?
That's the biggest one, is that they just
paid.
There's some Jalen Smith there.
There's
some Jalen Smith. If it's going to be because they just paid him, but I maintain that as much as we'll spend time on the draft and all that going into it, like my leader in the clubhouse by far is them drafting an offensive lineman in the first round.
Yep.
So
I'm with you.
I don't know how that impacts Steele and everything like that, and obviously he needs to play better, but that was probably the one area on the team where I was like, and he obviously stood out in terms of it. They just had to be better late in that game, and if he just would have been solid in that, then I think the Cowboys win that game. So I totally understand why people are pointing to that after the game for sure. But because of the contract, I don't see where you'd be going in another direction.
Yeah.
I like T Still.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's having a little bit of a rough spell, but I like T Still. I think he's a fighter. He's probably the one dude, if I had to ask anybody on this offensive line to go into a alley with, T Still would be one of those guys. If not him and probably Tyler Smith. He's struggling, but he's also facing some of the best dudes in this doggone league. So I mean, give and take, however you want to look at it, that situation. He got paid, so people have a level of expectation that comes with that. I understand that, but he's also coming off a freaking ACL, so.
9 pressures against San Francisco, the 12 pressures against Philly. When you're an opponent and you see a weak link, you normally try and attack it. Is he the weak link on this offensive line to the point where I think the pressures speak that it is? Because honestly, one of the other things that stood out to me about the tweet that Nick put out there was the fact that Zach Martin has 13 pressures or 12. What was 13. 13 pressures. Tyler Biadasz has 14. So they're right there neck and neck in terms of pressures on the interior. Now, interior pressures are not equal to tackle pressures. We talked about that before.
Correct.
It's not the same.
Correct.
But whenever you have 28 pressures and there's that much of a discrepancy, especially over 2 games against the best 2 teams in the NFC, I think there is a factor there that needs to be talked about as him being the weak link. Because if they're the best teams in the NFC, they're going to use their strength against your weak point. And if the weak point is a total of 21 pressures allowed in 2 games, then that's something I think of.
Who are the 2 guys that he had to go against?
Of course, it's Bosa, Graham, mixture of all those guys. He'll see Chase Young at some point down the line.
Yeah, so you're getting literally the NFL's best.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that it's okay for him to not be successful against that, but you're getting Bosa, had a part in that. You're getting Sweat,
sure,
had a part in that. Brandon Graham, he's been sacking people for a living his entire career. So yeah, he has to do better. Absolutely has to do better. But I would not put him as the weakest link on this team right now. That's not the guy. He's the guy who's on an island. Now tackles are on islands. We all understand that, right? So they lose if they misstep at all, they get beat. They have one misstep, if they have one error in their blocking technique, they get beat. Interior linemen, not so much, right? You got help.
But even Tyron Smith and Chuma Edoga, who have played the same competition that Terrence Steele has played, have combined for less pressures by a significant margin over what Terrence Steele has put out there.
I hear you. Again, it comes down to matchups. It really just comes down to matches. I mean, you could look at the analytics all day long and just say, yeah, his numbers are way higher, but you have to look at who they're facing as well, right? Yeah. Tyron Smith's been out there for, a couple sneezes, and, Chuma Edoga, the same thing, right? Those guys haven't had the amount of reps. Terrence Steele hasn't came off the field.
Yeah. Well, I know we haven't. I know we've talked about internal pressures being different than the tackles, but look at what the interior guys have faced this year too. Look at Tyler Smith, 4 pressures allowed. That's going up against Dexter Lawrence. Sure. That's going up against, rattle off a lot of the defensive tackles that this team has faced all season.
The whole right
really
side
strong.
is getting beat up right now.
For sure.
Tyler Smith, Zach Martin.
The left side is the strong side,
facts.
and it's by a healthy margin. I think there has to be some sort of improvement from T. Steele. If we look up in 5-6 weeks and this trend is still happening with Steele, I think that's when you look up and you're like, all right, Chuma, you've done a good job filling in at left tackle. Let's look at Tyron at right tackle, but I don't want to get ahead of myself there. But I think those are just conversations at a certain point. I don't think it's just right now. I think there's still time for T. Steele to be able to pick it up. Yeah. There's 3 really good opportunities coming up against weak defensive lines, so we'll see.
I think we gave Michael Gallup 2 years before we started saying, maybe his knee's not right.
Maybe not.
You know what I'm saying? Terrence Steele, we're 8 games into it.
Yeah, but I mean, you bring up Gallup. I mean, the elephant in the room is when they've given guys new contracts.
Off of injury, absolutely.
It's bad. Like,
it's
not just that, but I mean, I'm talking. Look at the last guys they've given new contracts to. I mean, you're talking about like Lyle Collins, Ezekiel Elliott, Jalen Smith, Michael Gallup, Terrence Steele. Like, I mean, there's just a lot of completely understanding why you would want to re-sign those players. There's no questioning any of that, but it's I don't know if it's bad luck or what, but it's just one of those. Man, it's rough. Your guy always used to. Belichick would move away from guys before he got time to pay him and stuff like that. And that's obviously tough to do because you have to draft. You have to be excellent drafting. Obviously, the Cowboys have been very good at drafting, but it's just so interesting how it was so many of these guys, it's made sense. Like, oh, yeah, no, that's the next guy to give a contract to. And then it hasn't lived up since they've gotten paid so many times.
We have to take our first break. We'll win a little bit over. When we come back here on Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball. I want to talk about what we've seen from this team over these last few weeks. The offense building in the right direction. Where is the defense heading? When we come back live from Black Rifle Coffee in North Frisco.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Black Rifle Coffee Company serves premium coffee to people who love America. When you drink Black Rifle coffee, you are directly supporting veterans, law enforcement, and first responders in your community. Black Rifle's expert roasters love coffee almost as much as Texas loves football, so it makes sense that America's Coffee partnered with America's team. Go online at blackriflecoffee.com and fuel up with the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. That's blackriflecoffee.com to fuel up today.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys, and now he's on his phone on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't-stop-banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, live from Black Rifle Coffee Company in North Frisco off of FM 423. John Machota, Isaiah Stanback, Nick Harris. Nice. We have Chris Beam in the back. We have Jasmine Marshall back in studio running everything from the mothership. She'll also get storylines with Nick Eatman going at 10 a.m. as well from inside the Star in Frisco. Got a couple people hanging out. We've got, of course, our great baristas in the back making some fire drinks. I just got mine in the break. Isaiah, you got yours?
Yeah, they're whipping me up something with cayenne pepper on top. So we're going to try some wild stuff
getting
here.
Spicy.
Yeah, you feel me?
Yeah, it's the fireplace it's behind you. We've got Augustine in the building as well. Just showed up in the middle of the break and hanging out for the next couple segments. But we talked in that first break about the offense. We talked a lot yesterday about the offense. It's headed in the right direction. There's lots of growth on that side of the football. Defensively, have you seen a match of that energy, John, whenever you're watching this team? Because depending on who you ask after the 28-23 loss to Philly, some would say, of course, the offense is to blame, the defense is to blame, everybody's to blame, who knows. Where would you see the defense and evaluate the defense over these last 3 weeks? Since giving up 42 to San Francisco.
I mean, I think that they've played pretty well. If you can take that third quarter away against the Eagles, they look like they're supposed to look. I mean, that is the strength of this team.
That's a good point.
And I did think that they played well enough for them to win the game in the fourth quarter. They came up with the stops. The thing that really hurt them is that they were able to get the ball out, but they just weren't able to recover the ball against the Eagles. That was the thing. Like, I really felt for them to win that game, they probably were going to have to win that turnover battle, because that's such a big part of what they do. It's been such a big part of their identity the last couple of years, and for them not to win that was a big issue in that game. But I guess you could maybe want to see some more pressures. I don't know. Like, I don't really have a lot of strong criticism of the defense. I will say after the third quarter, I did think my game story was going to be about the defense not playing well enough, but it's hard to sit there and not give them their props for that fourth quarter, because it's not a game if they don't step up as well. So they can play better, but I don't sit there and look at them as like, oh, this is all of a sudden an issue. It's not as good as we thought it was or anything like that.
Yeah, it's surprising because coming into this game, Dallas was 0-2 when they lost the turnover margin, and then they were 5-0 when they tied or won their turnover margin. So this is their first loss, tying on the turnover margin. But you can't. This team needs to be grateful whenever you have turnovers, but you can't say, "Oh, we only can win games when we get turnovers." Right? It was one heck of a game. It's flat out.
I just felt like the Eagles were a better team.
That's what it was.
You got to have something that that kind of tips the
scale. Yeah. I get it. And they put the ball on the ground 3 times. You didn't come away with any of them. The ball just didn't bounce your way. Sometimes there's games where it's like, dude, we can't. we can't win for losing, you know. And it's just like it was one of those games where the ball just would not go your way. They weren't putting it in the air to have any errors in that regard. DeRon Bland didn't have any opportunities to have any pick sixes. So it's just, you know, they took the L. You know, hopefully they can force them next time.
Can I get your thoughts real quick on this?
Is this the cayenne drink?
I'll let y'all know when I get down to the cayenne.
To get down to the cayenne?
So far, so good.
Is it frozen? Is it frozen or is it iced?
It's just iced. It's just iced.
Oh, it's got whipped cream on top.
Yeah, iced with whipped cream on top. This is honestly some good stuff. This is some great stuff.
It looks delicious.
Yeah.
But it was...
Y'all are just going to see me like I am every morning just drinking a drink.
Yeah, normally you have
I'm just the drink guy
protein
on the
shake.
show. I'm just like the token drink guy on this show right now.
I'll tell you right now, if he gets whipped cream on his lip, I'm not telling him. I'm not telling him at all.
I don't think he can.
That's how I know you're a fake friend. That's how I know you're a fake friend.
Who needs friends when you got
Isaiah Stanback's hater on your
John is going to be sitting looking at you like,
I'll tell you. You're good.
Thank you, John. I
You're good.
appreciate
Thank goodness.
wholeheartedly. Really quick on the defense. This is
Don't try and change the subject.
two things that I highlighted from the defense. You were talking about the turnover margin, obviously. Big deal. Second time this year that they haven't been able to generate a turnover, and they're 0-2 in those games.
Yeah.
The big thing for me, 6 games in a row, they've allowed points on the first possession. They got to be able to come out the gates a little bit hotter. And when you look at the losses that they've suffered in those 6 games and how critical those first drives were to not only setting momentum for the opposing offense, but also just kind of like putting the offense behind, it's been really bad. So, you know, it hurt them really bad against San Francisco, hurt them against Arizona. I'm trying to think of some other games as well. Chargers game, it had them playing from behind.
Yeah.
You know, you take out that opening drive touchdown, that's probably a much more wider margin down late in the game. And obviously on Sunday night, and not only on Sunday night against Philly was it the first half, it was the second half, you know, coming out and allowing those back-to-back touchdown drives out of the break. And they got to be able to pick up momentum off rip a little bit better. That's the biggest knock I have on this offense, or on this defense right now.
It's one thing to say you have to get off to a better start. You have to play better from the jump and get off to a hot start. But when you say that, Nick, where do you start? How do you get to that point, and who on that defense needs to step up and make a play, or is it different every time?
I think it's different every time. It's a unit thing. You know, it's a whole. I guess it would have to be communication just all the way around. So whoever's wearing that green dot, you know, that's the guy that's going to be maintaining momentum in those situations and being able to.
So do you think Leighton
get off
Vander
the
Esch
field.
could have helped in that situation?
Yeah, but it was the same when Leighton was on the field.
Okay.
You know, it's been 6 games in a row. He hasn't been out for 6 games. So there's got to be some sort of leadership step up there in that sense and getting off the field. And I know that was just an overarching big problem against Philadelphia too. 7 for 14 on third down that they were. I believe it was 2 for 2 on fourth down. So they just got to be able to get off the field, and that's the toughest thing I look at whenever I look at, you know, a 10-minute drive a couple of weeks ago. I forget the opponent, but it was a 10-minute drive in a really critical time of the game. And then you look at Philly in the second half. They started the third quarter, these long methodical drives where they took 10 minutes off the clock in the third quarter with 14 points and had them working from behind, and they never caught up. So they just got to get off the field. That's my biggest thing against this defense right now.
Do you miss the production of Vander Esch?
No, I don't think so. Because you look at what Marquise Bell has done, it's been fine. And you look at the running game, it's not like there's been a significant change there.
Thanks.
You know, if you look across the middle of the field.
I would rather have Leighton Vander Esch and Marquise Bell as opposed
and
to
Damone Clark.
Yeah, and Damone Clark. I think Damone Clark's played well, and I liked the intensity. Everybody's talking about Jason Kelce because the Kelce name is hot right now, and that's just kind of everything. Him yelling at Damone Clark and kind of
Damone was back
slow-mo.
Yeah.
Damone was in his face all the way through, and a second-year player who didn't play a whole lot last year.
That's a grown man.
I'm here for it.
That's a grown
I'm
man.
here for
but
it.
The thing is, listen, I'm just asking a question because this is on the roster. If you don't miss Vander Esch, do you take somebody off the field to put Vander Esch back on the field because you only use 2 linebackers?
Right. Exactly.
I don't think that there's been. I don't think there's been for me, I know that there has not been the drop-off that I thought there would be.
No.
I think it would be major, but I thought there'd be a little bit. But to your point, I just think they're so thin at linebacker depth that it would be nice to have.
No, for sure. I'm saying, but if
Esch.
Vander Esch comes back, does he go back to starting? And you take Marquise Bell off the field?
He would, yeah.
Absolutely.
But when you look into the offseason and you look at some potential things that they can do, and not only in the linebacking core, but at the safety unit as well, you look at the one safety that hasn't been signed long-term, and Jaron Kearse, the starting safety, Jaron Kearse. You look at what Wanye Thomas has been able to do. You look at what Marquise Bell has been able to do. You're able to slide Leighton Vander Esch back into that linebacking core and then rely on either Bell or Thomas if they don't want to re-sign Curse. So I think there's options that Bell could have after this season, but once Leighton Vander Esch is healthy, you have to be able to plug him back in because he's not only valuable on the field with his play, but like his presence as well. You can't take that away, and Bell's never going to live up to that. Nothing against Bell, like that's just not who he is.
I'd much rather have Bell's speed
than Curse.
Personally, no. Than
Leighton Vander Esch. Okay,
that's me personally.
Sure.
I think that Bell has stopped a lot of the threats that you face, in opposition. Obviously not Akers, but Eckler.
Oh, sorry.
Eckler shut that down. He was a big reason why he didn't get off the ground. He was able to go sideline to sideline a lot more effectively than Vander Esch. He's able to change directions a lot more effectively than Vander Esch. I feel like Vander Esch is relatively stiff, and I think that you're not losing anything by having Bell in there. I think you actually gain by having Bell in there. I think there's assets that he provides that Vander Esch does not.
There are a couple things here that I want to dive into in the final segment. One with Jaron Curse. Two, when it comes to the defense as a whole, is it still the front seven that sets the tone, or have we started to see a shift there as well? There's a lot I want to kind of dive into when it comes to the defensive side of the football. I want to remind you one more time, the Frisco grand opening coming up on Saturday. Doors open 5 a.m. here in North Frisco at Black Rifle Coffee Company off of FM 423. First 50 in-store customers get a 20-ounce Yeti tumbler and a free batch of brew coffee for a year. Comes in the tumbler, too.
I might actually be here. I want a Yeti. I might actually be here for that.
I'll camp out with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
5 a.m. is going to be early, though.
That is early. On the one day off we have this week.
Just pull an all-nighter with our Black Rifle coffee. Maybe we'll grab a bag and we'll make it work. The America's Team blend. All right, we're taking a break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. We'll take a look ahead defensively for this Dallas Cowboys team. Get you set for the rest of the week here on Talkin Cowboys.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Are you ready to take coffee off your grocery list forever? Black Rifle Coffee Club is here to help. As a coffee club member, you'll get your favorite coffees roasted, packaged, and shipped to your door free of charge on your preferred schedule. Set it, forget it, and never run low on coffee again. Members also get exclusive deals on coffee, products, and discounts from partner brands. Ease your mind and let Black Rifle worry about your coffee supply. Go to blackriflecoffee.com to join the coffee club today.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
I'm Talking Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live from the brand new, just opened Black Rifle Coffee Company from North Frisco. We're also not only live on site, but we're breaking world records here. We watched you in that last segment receive that drink. Ryder, by the way, who I did not shout out in the last segment. Ryder, thanks so much for setting all this up. You do a great job. He handed you this drink. It's gone.
It is.
It is done. I mean, there's another one already on the way. I mean, you're gonna run back to the Star. You're gonna pull a Kyle in 2020 and run to the Star and back. But whenever you whenever you got down to the cayenne pepper, did it live up to the expectation?
It did. I felt it whenever it got a little kick. It was a nice little touch. I'd do it again.
Where'd you feel it?
Like right on the tongue, right on the tip.
John Machota, Isaiah Stanback, Nick Harris, Chris Beam, Jasmine
It was great,
Marshall.
though. 10 out of 10. Thanks,
yeah.
guys. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. John wants to leave so bad.
John is like the resident adult on our show. I feel like he just looks down on us at all times.
Maybe a little. Maybe a little. All right, John, when you're looking at the back half of the schedule, of course, Cowboys 5-3 now, 8 games down. You've got 9 to go. When it comes to the back half of the roster on the defensive side, who needs to continue to step up and elevate their game as the year goes along?
Bell for sure. I mean, like we were just talking about before, like he has exceeded expectations for what. I mean, he showed glimpses in training camp, but we've just seen so many guys show glimpses in training camp, and then once the season starts, they kind of fade a little bit, and he just keeps taking it to another level. So
that's crazy. We were talking about it in training camp. I mean, similar setup, the U shape right in front of the field, and we were talking about Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell, and there are so many times where you do have those camp names that elevate, and then they just don't ever show up, and both of those guys have lived up to the expectation.
Jaron Kearse is another one, because we've seen Jaron Kearse play really well over the last few years. And
you think he's played well this year?
I don't think he's played up to what his standard is and what he was expecting. And I say that because, you know, I thought he would be the one that would get the offseason deal, and he never did. And I thought that was going to be like a major, you know, like fire lit under him.
Yeah.
And I know he has the ability, but he's the type of guy that he needs to kind of take it to another level for them to step it up on that back end of the defense. Like, I still think this defense, if you tell me that they make a deep playoff run, go to the Super Bowl, I would point more to the front seven, though. I would say that they would probably have to play lights out. The D-line just would have to be rotating in guys where Sam Williams is making an impact, Dorrance, everybody on top of D-Law and Micah. I think that would be what you have to do to get there. Mm-hmm. But if you're talking about who needs to step up on the back end, I think Jaron Kearse is pretty high on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kearse is my number one. In regards to that, I would like to see the front line continue to improve. But I want Kearse to do less talking on behalf of the team. I want to see him do more hitting and more, guarding tight ends.
Us reporters like it when they talk.
Yeah, I know.
No, you're not alone. I see it a lot on Twitter, people saying the same thing that you're saying.
Yeah, the talking aspect. Just go out there and hit somebody. Go hit somebody. You're a big safety. Go hit somebody. Make your presence felt. Right now, I don't think anybody fears Kearse. You have no reason to fear Kearse. When you think about big safeties, there's not a lot of safeties that have come across this league that were his size that you can really put in the category of feared. There's Cam Chancellor and was my man Sean Taylor. There's only a handful of big guys. Go hit somebody, right? And make teams be fearful for crossing the middle of the field. And I haven't felt that from him at all. Nor have I felt like he can totally eliminate threat at the tight end position this year.
Sort of how Marquise Bell has been an X factor and been an added plus to this defense this year. Would you say Jaron Kearse was that X factor for Dan Quinn's defenses in 2021 and 2022? Kind of an unsung hero. You knew Micah Parsons was going to be him. You knew DeMarcus Lawrence was going to have the impact he did, but Jaron Kearse was not expected to be an impact player going into that 2021 season, but he was. Do you feel like maybe that new shine, that shimmer from Jaron Kearse is just worn off and it's a little bit different this time?
I just think
around?
sometimes guys get comfortable.
Okay.
And guys lose their drive and they lose that fire. And a lot of times the reason why you see a surge in production in contract years is because guys have a why. Yeah. Right, and their why is high. It's on highest team, right? Like they're trying to go get that thing because it's their one opportunity. But sometimes when guys get comfortable, what's their drive? Now we can list out a whole bunch of things in terms of what their why should be, and I think that Kearse falls into that category. He should have a lot of whys, but it's just not showing up. I'm not seeing it on the field. I can speak from my opinion. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing more of this than I'm seeing him playing. My guy is this. My guy's we ready. You go have an impact. Just go have an impact.
The initial question was, somebody on the defense that needs to be able to elevate the rest of the season. For me, it's Jordan Lewis, like far and beyond.
Yeah.
I think he found a stride against Philadelphia, and the secondary as a whole found a stride against Philadelphia. They did a really good job limiting those weapons, and Jalen Hurts only had just over 200 yards passing. But when you look at the season as a whole and the biggest problems that they've had in the secondary, you can point at Jordan Lewis and be like, gosh, if he had just played a little bit better in this instance or that instance, then this would be a different result. Keenan Allen, his matchup against Keenan Allen is the first thing that jumps to mind. Obviously, that wasn't a loss, but you needed to play into that game late because of the way Keenan Allen played in that game. I don't know. I just felt like Jordan Lewis has been kind of a liability at nickel at times this season, but at the same time, again, I have to give him credit for bouncing back against Philadelphia, having some really good moments, but he wasn't perfect. When you look at the cornerback room, and let's throw in a healthy Trayvon Diggs into the equation. Let's pretend for a second. Unfortunately, you look at Jordan Lewis as the biggest liability, and I think it's a healthy margin. So that's something you talk about, especially going into next season with the way Deron Bland has been able to step up. Whenever Trayvon Diggs is healthy again, do you re-sign Gilmore and put Bland in at nickel, or do you let Gilmore walk and put Bland outside and still trust Jordan Lewis at that nickel? I think that's going to be the biggest thing you look at over the course of the next 9 weeks is, do you trust Jordan Lewis to bring him back, or do you trust Stephon Gilmore more to bring him back? That's a really interesting head-to-head that kind of is cooking up, I think.
When you mentioned Jordan Lewis, though, the thing for me, when you ask about the back end of the defense, I do think they'll be okay if those three can stay healthy: Jordan Lewis, Deron Bland, Stephon Gilmore. Where I have concerns is if they were to lose one of those guys, whether we're talking just for a half or for the rest of the season, the next guy up, I think, is a pretty notable drop-off there. I think you would have some major concerns there. But if you can keep those three guys together and they just keep growing throughout the rest of the season, I think they'll be fine as the season goes on. I don't think that you need more than them. I think that is a good quality trio there. Obviously, you'd love to have Trayvon Diggs, but it just, if you were to lose one of those guys, it could look like the end of last season.
To that same point, if you lose a guy on the boundary, Gilmore or Deron Bland, then you're looking at Nashawn Wright or Noah Igbenogany to fill in on the boundary. If you lose Jordan Lewis at the nickel, then you're looking at Deron swinging in and still having that opportunity. But there's also Wanye Thomas as kind of the wild card in that situation. I think he could be able to play nickel. You'd be able to trust him in that moment, but he would have to be able to step up and do that.
Isaiah's face says otherwise.
Go back to preseason. Look what he was able to do at nickel, and there was a lot of opportunities.
He said, "Check the tape, Isaiah."
Nick's ready.
Where he stood up.
Check the tape.
Not against it. Not against it.
I mean, we saw it last year from Israel Mukwamu. Israel Mukwamu filled in that corner whenever John's situation down the stretch came to fruition, and you had to have an emergency cornerback. Now, he played it in college. Wanye has always been a safety, so making that switch would be a little bit tougher. But definitely not something that I think Cowboys fans want to get to.
Definitely
They want Jordan Lewis to continue to stay healthy and then step up in that regard and continue to play better as the season goes along. You mentioned Keenan Allen. Did y'all see the catch Keenan Allen made last night?
10,000 yards.
Oh, my gosh. That thing was nuts.
When we talk about top receivers in the league, and I feel like it's been like this for like a decade. Keenan Allen's name never gets brought up, and it's wild.
Consistency.
It's just a model of him and Mike Evans, just model of consistency throughout their careers.
He made an insane catch. You should look it up. I'm shocked you didn't see it.
It was insane.
For his
even
10,000
Joe
Buck almost lost his mind in like a non-factor game, and that takes a lot.
Let's just say I had a super late flight out of Philadelphia.
That's true.
I didn't get back here. This is probably the latest I ever got back here. So
really,
you got to talk to your
Philly
private jet,
cheesesteaks, or I mean, what was holding you back?
We'll talk about it after the
We'll
show.
talk about it? Okay, all right. Sounds good. Well, hey, one more time, special thanks to Black Rifle Coffee here in North Frisco for hosting us today. This has been so much fun. We've gotten a chance to really interact and have some great coffee, by the way. 5 a.m. on Saturday, November 11th, North Frisco off of FM 423. Be here for the grand opening. Cowboys cheerleaders, Rowdy, Charlotte Jones will be in attendance, and of course, we'll do some salute to service as well. Nick Harris will be in attendance. I'll see if I can wake up in the morning. I'm not going to promise anything, but I'll see what I can do. Salute to service all throughout the week for Veterans Day as well. So thank you to the troops and for those that serve. There's lots of that throughout here at Black Rifle Coffee, and then Of course, the Dallas Cowboys got the America's Team blend. You can pick that up on Saturday. And, of course, continue to watch Talkin Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee as the season goes along. For John Machota, for Isaiah Stanback, for Nick Harris, Chris Beam, Matt Kent, Jasmine Marshall, Ryder in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from Black Rifle Coffee. We'll see you tomorrow with more Talkin Cowboys.
We're the only ones doing
This
it.
has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!